The United States government announced the immediate suspension of the diversity visa lottery program on Thursday evening, halting one of the few remaining pathways to American permanent residency for millions of applicants worldwide. The decision, directed by President Donald Trump and executed by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, follows the discovery of suspect Claudio Neves Valente's immigration status in connection with last week's Brown University massacre that left 2 students dead and 9 others wounded. According to official statements released by the Department of Homeland Security, the suspension takes effect immediately and applies to all pending lottery selections, processing appointments, and future program cycles. The move impacts approximately 131,000 individuals already selected in the 2025 lottery cycle, including their spouses and dependents, whose dreams of American residency now hang in legal limbo. Neves Valente, a 48-year-old Portuguese national, entered the United States initially on a student visa in the year 2000 to pursue doctoral studies in physics at Brown University. After departing the program in 2001, he remained outside the country for more than 15 years before re-entering through the diversity lottery system in 2017, ultimately securing permanent resident status later that year. Authorities discovered his body Thursday evening in a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, dead from what investigators describe as a self-inflicted gunshot wound, ending a 6-day multi-state manhunt that gripped the Northeast. The diversity visa program, established by Congress in 1990, allocates up to 50,000 green cards annually through randomized selection among applicants from nations with historically low immigration rates to America. Nearly 20 million individuals submitted entries for the 2025 cycle, representing one of the most competitive years in program history. Portuguese nationals secured only 38 slots in that cycle, making Neves Valente's 2017 selection statistically remarkable. Secretary Noem's statement on social media platform X declared that Trump had fought to end this program since 2017, following a truck ramming attack in New York City that killed 8 people. That attacker, Sayfullo Saipov from Uzbekistan, had also entered America through the diversity lottery before pledging allegiance to Islamic State ideology and receiving multiple life sentences for the massacre. The secretary's announcement characterizes the lottery as a disastrous program that threatens American safety, though she provided no statistical analysis comparing crime rates among diversity visa recipients versus other immigration categories. Her directive to United States Citizenship and Immigration Services demands a complete pause on all program operations, pending further review. Providence Police Chief Oscar Perez confirmed that video surveillance and public tips led investigators to a vehicle rental location where Neves Valente's identification matched their suspect profile. The car contained evidence linking him to both the Brown University shooting on December 13th and the earlier killing of Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor Nuno Loureiro at his Brookline residence on December 11th. Both victims and the suspect shared academic connections to Instituto Superior Técnico in Lisbon, Portugal, where they studied during the late 1990s. Loureiro, age 47, had established himself as a distinguished professor in plasma physics at MIT, while Neves Valente's academic trajectory ended abruptly after 1 semester at Brown, leaving a gap of 16 years before his return to American soil through the lottery system. Authorities have not disclosed any suspected motive for either attack. The 2 students killed at Brown have been identified as Ella Cook, 19, a second-year student from Alabama, and Muhammad Aziz Umarzokov, 18, an Uzbek-American freshman. 9 additional students sustained injuries during the attack, which occurred during final examinations in the engineering building. Brown University President Christina Paxson stated that Neves Valente maintained no current active affiliation with the institution, having last enrolled from autumn 2000 through spring 2001. The university has not released information regarding the circumstances of his departure or whether he maintained any contact with faculty or students during the intervening years. Legal and constitutional challenges loom. Immigration law experts immediately questioned the executive branch's authority to suspend a program established through congressional legislation. The diversity lottery exists as statutory law under the Immigration Act of 1990, meaning its elimination or suspension theoretically requires legislative action rather than executive order. Professor Sarah Mitchell of Georgetown Law, speaking on condition of anonymity due to the sensitive political climate, suggested that legal challenges appear virtually certain given the program's statutory foundation. She noted that previous executive attempts to circumvent immigration law have faced judicial resistance, though the current Supreme Court composition may prove more receptive to expansive executive authority claims. The suspension announcement comes amid broader Trump administration efforts to restrict both legal and illegal immigration pathways. Recent actions include sweeping restrictions on Afghan immigration, following a National Guard shooting in November, continued challenges to birthright citizenship despite its constitutional foundation in the 14th Amendment, and expanded deportation operations targeting undocumented residents. Beyond the immediate policy implications, sources close to the visa processing system suggest the suspension could trigger cascading effects throughout the immigration bureaucracy. Approximately 131,000 lottery winners, selected for the 2025 cycle, now face uncertainty about whether their selections remain valid, whether processing will resume, or whether they must re-enter future lotteries if the program eventually restarts. Unconfirmed reports from immigration advocacy organizations suggest panic spreading through communities with high lottery participation rates, particularly in African nations that benefit disproportionately from the diversity program. Nigeria, Egypt, and Kenya typically see thousands of annual lottery winners, representing one of the few accessible legal immigration routes for citizens of those countries. Some immigration attorneys, speaking confidentially to avoid professional repercussions, speculate that the administration may use this suspension as a pathway to permanent program elimination. They note that once suspended, restarting complex immigration programs requires significant political capital and bureaucratic effort, creating functional elimination even without formal legislative action. Trump's opposition to the diversity lottery extends throughout his political career. During his first term, he repeatedly called for its elimination, characterizing it as a security vulnerability. Despite statistical evidence showing diversity, visa recipients undergo identical vetting procedures as other green card applicants. All lottery winners must complete consular interviews, background checks, medical examinations, and security screenings before receiving permanent residency. The program's origins trace to concerns about immigration system imbalances, favoring certain regions while effectively excluding others. By creating a lottery mechanism, Congress aimed to diversify America's immigrant population beyond the family-based and employment-based categories that dominated the system. European, African, and Oceanic nations benefit most from current lottery allocations, as Asian and Latin American countries generally exceed representation thresholds that would qualify them for lottery participation. Critics of the program argue that randomized selection lacks merit-based criteria, allowing individuals without specific skills, education, or American connections to obtain permanent residency. Supporters counter that diversity itself constitutes merit, bringing varied perspectives, experiences, and cultural contributions that enrich American society beyond purely economic calculations. Political analysts observing the administration's immigration policies suggest the timing of this suspension serves multiple strategic purposes beyond the stated security rationale. With midterm elections approaching in 2026, immigration remains one of Trump's signature issues, and dramatic actions like lottery suspension energize his political base while positioning him as tough on immigration policy. Some observers speculate that the administration may be testing how far executive authority can extend into immigration law without triggering successful judicial intervention. By framing the suspension as a temporary security measure rather than permanent elimination, the executive branch may be attempting to navigate around the statutory issues that would arise from outright program cancellation. There are also whispers in Washington policy circles, though entirely unsubstantiated, that the administration plans to propose replacing the diversity lottery with a merit-based point system similar to Canada's immigration framework. Such a system would evaluate applicants based on education, language proficiency, work experience, and age rather than random selection, fundamentally transforming who gains access to American permanent residency. The assertion that Neves Valente's lottery entry enabled his eventual crimes implies systematic vetting failures, though the specific nature of those failures remains unclear. All diversity lottery winners must undergo the same security screenings required of other green card applicants, including biometric checks, criminal background reviews, and consular interviews. What the vetting process cannot predict, and what no immigration system has successfully prevented, is future criminal behavior by individuals with no previous criminal history. Neves Valente's documented timeline shows a student visa entry in 2000, a 2017 diversity lottery selection, and subsequent permanent residency that same year. Whether any red flags existed during his 2017 vetting that immigration officials overlooked or ignored remains unknown. Immigration security experts note that predicting future violent behavior among visa applicants represents one of the field's most intractable challenges. Psychological evaluations are not standard components of immigration vetting, and predictive algorithms face accuracy limitations alongside civil liberties concerns. The vast majority of diversity lottery recipients, like immigrants generally, commit crimes at lower rates than native-born Americans, according to criminological research, making individual cases like Neves Valente statistical anomalies rather than systemic patterns. Foreign governments whose citizens benefit from the diversity lottery have not yet issued official responses to the suspension, though diplomatic sources suggest confusion and concern. Portuguese officials confirmed they are monitoring the situation given Neves Valente's nationality, though they have not commented on the broader program suspension. African Union representatives have historically defended the diversity lottery as crucial for African immigration opportunities, given the continent's limited representation in family-based and employment-based categories. The suspension potentially cuts off one of the few pathways for African professionals, students, and families seeking American opportunities. European nations with low U.S. immigration rates, including certain Eastern European countries, also benefit from lottery allocations. However, their overall immigration to America remains minimal compared to Asian and Latin American flows, making the program's suspension less diplomatically significant for those regions. Perhaps the most immediate humanitarian concern involves the 131,000 individuals already selected in the 2025 lottery cycle, who now face profound uncertainty. Some have quit jobs, sold property, or made other irreversible life changes in preparation for American immigration. Others have already completed portions of the vetting process, paying fees and undergoing medical examinations that may now be wasted. Immigration law provides no clear answer about whether these selections remain valid during a suspension period, whether processing will resume if courts intervene, or whether applicants must re-enter future lotteries if the program restarts. The typical diversity lottery operates on strict fiscal year deadlines, meaning delays of several months could result in automatic application expiration even if the program resumes. Legal advocacy groups are preparing class action lawsuits on behalf of affected lottery winners, arguing that executive branch suspension of a statutory program without congressional authorization violates separation of powers principles. These cases will likely take months or years to resolve, leaving successful lottery applicants in indefinite limbo. The diversity lottery suspension represents one element of a comprehensive immigration restriction agenda that includes mass deportation operations, birthright citizenship challenges, and reduced refugee admissions. Together, these policies signal a fundamental reimagining of America's immigration system towards smaller overall numbers and stricter merit-based criteria. Some immigration restrictionists celebrate this trajectory as necessary correction after decades of what they view as excessive immigration that strains public resources and threatens cultural cohesion. Immigration advocates counter that America's strength derives from its immigrant character and that restricting legal pathways while simultaneously pursuing mass deportation creates humanitarian crises without meaningfully improving security or economic conditions. The Supreme Court will play a decisive role in determining how much unilateral authority the executive branch possesses over immigration policy. With birthright citizenship challenges already accepted for review and inevitable litigation over the lottery suspension forthcoming, the court's interpretation of executive power versus statutory law will shape immigration policy for decades. In the immediate term, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services must determine how to implement the suspension directive. Do scheduled lottery interviews proceed? Are visa issuances frozen? Can applicants who have completed all vetting still enter America? These operational questions lack clear answers pending further guidance from Homeland Security leadership. Congress faces a decision about whether to intervene legislatively to restart the program, permanently eliminate it, or allow executive suspension to continue indefinitely. Given current political divisions, legislative action appears unlikely in the near term, effectively ceding immigration policy control to executive discretion. For the millions of prospective immigrants who view the diversity lottery as their best hope for American permanent residency, the suspension represents a potentially permanent closure of opportunity. Whether measured in economic terms, family reunification, or simple dreams of American life, the policy's human cost extends far beyond the statistical abstractions of visa numbers and bureaucratic procedures. The Brown University tragedy that precipitated this policy shift claimed 2 young lives and wounded 9 others, creating genuine grief and legitimate questions about security protocols. Whether suspending the diversity lottery represents a meaningful response to that tragedy, or merely political opportunism exploiting grief for immigration restriction goals, depends largely on one's broader perspective about immigration's role in American society. What remains undeniable is that approximately 20 million people applied for the 2025 diversity lottery, revealing persistent global demand for American permanent residency. Whether America continues offering that opportunity through randomized selection, shifts to merit-based systems, or restricts legal immigration more broadly will define the nation's character for generations to come. As investigations into the Brown and MIT shootings continue, and as legal challenges to the lottery suspension develop, the intersection of immigration policy and public safety will remain contested terrain. The answers society reaches about balancing security concerns with immigration opportunities will reflect fundamental values about who America is and who it chooses to become.